Hi everyone, I'm Kimberly Parsons, the co-author of Music Unfolds, and I'm here on the Waldorf Essentials page today to talk to you about the big picture, music from whole to parts. I wanted to let you know that I can see your questions. There's a slight delay, so I will be able to answer those as you post them, and you can just put them right here as a comment and they'll pop up and I can see them, and I will do what I can to answer them. If I don't know, I'd just say I don't know and I'll have to get back to you. But you're welcome to ask questions. I am enjoying a nice fall day here in Texas. It's about 65, 70 degrees. So I hope that wherever you are, you're enjoying your Martin Mass prep and getting ready for fall. There's a lot of great music out there for this festival. And I hope that you are enjoying some of that with your family. So I'll jump right in today. We're talking today about the big picture, music from whole to parts, and talking about what that is and what it looks like in the music lesson, and specifically how it works in our curriculum, Music Unfolds. So first I want to talk about what I mean from whole to parts, because I know that everybody is in a different place in this Waldorf journey, and I know when I first began, I had no idea what anybody was talking about when they said that we teach from whole to parts. I would just go, oh, okay. I had no idea. So I want to talk about what that means. When we talk about teaching from whole to parts, we're talking basically about giving the child whatever the topic, whatever the subject that we're talking about, letting them appreciate it as part of something else, giving them the big picture before we start to dissect it into little bits and into its individual elements. I think about when I was some of my early reading, something that really captivated me when I was just thinking about starting to use this method at home with my children, and I read actually in some of Steiner's translated words that he talked about how when we bring the study of botany or the study of plants to children, that we shouldn't just show them a plant, but that we need to bring the study of the plant kingdom to them in the context of everything that plant is connected to, the environment in which the plant most naturally lives. Because once you, in his words, he said, once you remove that plant from the soil or take it out of its environment, you no longer really have a plant. You have something that was a plant, and it's going to become something, hopefully will be regenerated through the soil and the process and become a plant again, but you don't really have a plant anymore if you've uprooted it from the soil. And he talked about how, we have to give that big picture to the children because, first of all, it's common sense. A plant is not experienced separately from its environment unless it's a cut flower or something like that. But it's also a great way for our children to learn about the connectedness of that plant to the environment and to help them draw that emotional connection to the plant life, to care about the soil, to care about the earth, to care about the water that's feeding that plant. And so teaching from whole to parts is one of the most beautiful things about Waldorf. I agree. I see someone's commented that's one of their favorite things, and it totally is one of my favorites too. And it's integral to what we're doing. Also, for those who are new, some examples that you may or may not have encountered yet. It's not just in botany, but for example, when we first start teaching children about numbers, when I learned about the number 1, I was given the symbol and one thing to count. We have one thing, and that jives. We get that. But then, like say when we got to 12, I learned about 12. In the context of, the counting 12 things made 12 and thinking about it as individual units. Whereas in Waldorf education, we're talking about 12. And what is 12ness? 12ness is 2 groups of 6, it's 3 groups of 4, it's 4 groups of 3, and so on. And so when we're teaching math, we're teaching from whole to parts. We're teaching about 12ness. We're not just teaching, 1, 2, 3, and so on with 12. We teach from whole to parts when we start teaching children about time. When we first start teaching them about time, we're teaching them very much about the seasons. That's why it's such a part of early childhood education in Waldorfland to teach the youngest groups so much about seasons and observing nature, because we're not going to teach the 3-year-old January, February, March, and April. And if you come from a traditional background, you probably remember that little ditty. But we're teaching the kids about the seasons, so they're observing the passage of time. Then we finally get to teaching them about months and weeks and days. And then finally we get to telling clock time by the hour and the minute. So we're going from the big thing to the little thing when we're teaching time. We also use that in teaching the 4 processes all at once in grade 1. I didn't learn that there was such a thing as multiplication and division until grade 3. I'm a product of the 70s, and I don't care if you know how old I am. I'm in my 40s, and so that's when they taught that, multiplication, division, and I never really even thought about that till I was 9 or 10. But we're teaching them the whole enchilada in grade 1 so that they can start internalizing that and start working with that. It's very intuitive. We teach from whole to parts in language too, whether it's second language acquisition or third. But when you teach it at home, if you're teaching it with a Waldorf approach, we teach it in an immersive way. When I sit down and work with my children in Spanish, I just speak Spanish to them, and we talk about things in the room, and they absorb it and look at me with deer in the headlights eyes, and we giggle and laugh and go on. But I don't sit down and conjugate verbs with my 8-year-old. I am teaching him those words in the context of an entire sentence or an entire song, or in using those things. So we do whole to parts all the time. So I think a lot of people, when they come to Waldorf, that's attractive to them, and they can kind of wrap their mind around it. We can kind of go, okay, this is different for me, especially probably in math, but I can do this. But what on earth does that look like in the music lesson? And that's where we encounter some of the challenges and some of the questions that we get frequently about what do we do. So that's what I'm trying to answer today. I'm trying to give you some clarity on what that might look like and sound like. And it's very hard, especially for people who do have some musical background and some training, because what we're doing in this curriculum seems like it's the opposite of how we were taught, and for many of us it was. I remember my first piano lessons. That was my first thing I really remember. I'm sure that our kinder class and first grade class went to the music room at school. I'm sure we did. I don't remember much about it, but I do remember those early piano lessons, and there was a book. And there was, before I even played anything, there were lots of diagrams of how to hold your fingers and where the notes were on the piano keyboard. And then there were symbols. And on day 1, I was asked to start reading those rhythm symbols and notes on the staff. And it was just, okay, here's this thing, start interpreting this language and start playing. So I didn't even notice the angry faces. Now I'm nervous. Someone go look. But thank you for all those lovely hearts. So I've totally lost where I was going. Look at my notes. But it's totally opposite of how so many of us were taught to begin our music journeys. We were given a book and we were asked to read notation from day 1. And this is not that. So it's very different for a lot of us, and we're having a hard time really maybe knowing how to get started. So and we were taught that way in other subjects too. I wasn't taught botany from looking at the needs of a plant and how it grew. We labeled the parts of a flower. I remember that's what we did. We labeled the parts of a flower. And for math, we learned a lot of procedures and tricks, but maybe not the why of it. And to this day, I can calculate, what percentage of X is Y, and I can do the tricks and get the answer, but I don't understand it. I just do the trick that I know. So in music, we are working in whole to parts too, especially when it comes to the instrument. And that's what's hard for people, is to wrap our minds around how to teach this instrument without teaching our children at the same time how to read the printed page. So the big question is, what are we doing here and what is our goal? And first of all, I want to remind you that our goal is not to get our kids playing the instrument. The goal is not to get our kids reading the music. The goal is to create little musicians. And a musician is someone who has the skills base and who has that emotional connection with what they're doing, that they can communicate that to an audience and create that experience for an audience. So that's our big goal. That's our meta goal. And on a smaller scale, what we're trying to do is to, in these early years with music, we are really trying to fill their experiential bank with the experiences that they need longer down the road when they do start reading notation. So your job in these early years, in the preschool or in kindergarten and first and second grade, is to really give them the experiences that they're going to need to draw on. I think about when Steiner was discussing how he wanted his teachers to bring letters, teaching the letters to the children. And he talked a lot about how it's all based on spoken words. And that eventually when we teach, for example, the letter F, that it kind of looks like a fish and it sounds like a fish. And so that it's something we're naming that they've already experienced. So we want to do the same thing in music. We want to give them those experiences in the early years so that later we can give names to the things that they have experienced. So what that looks like, dear friends, is that in the early grades, before age 9, we're really just working on giving them experiences. We're not worrying about reading the music at all. Not at all. We are not worried about any musical terminology per se before age 9. Your job is just to fill that experience bank. It's just like when you're working with a little one, say with a water table or a sensory bin. You're not giving them all the lessons of physics about why the rice runs through the sieve and giving them a lesson on gravity or how to measure volume or comparative. We're not doing that. They're just experiencing that rice or that sand or those different objects that run through the sieve or don't run through the sieve. And so at this point, you're just letting them experience the music and you're letting them grow and experience on the instrument, but you're not worried about naming those elements. You're not worrying about getting them reading the music. And I know this panics some people, especially my friends and the readers that are musicians. I get it. I have a master's degree in music and I get it. There's this place in us that wants them to be reading music by the time they are able to, or before they're reading the printed word. So I get it, but if you want to do it in a way that honors their development according to Steiner's ideas, then we'll wait. So in grade 1, your focus really is on those songs. You're just singing them. And then a few of them you'll pick to put on the instrument. And I get a lot of people who are very anxious about learning all of the songs either for singing or they are anxious about learning most of them on the instrument. They're very anxious about those things. And I just want to put your mind at ease and tell you not to be anxious about it. Choose just a few of the songs. In each season, there are 8 songs. So choose, 3 or 4 that really you enjoy, that your kids enjoy, that you feel like you can do for singing. Add in your own family songs that you enjoy, some festival songs that you enjoy, and then pick 1 or 2 of those for the instrument. That's all you need to do. That's all you need to do. Same thing for second grade. And remember that your child, just to make this very clear, your child never sees that notation in grade 1 and grade 2. They don't see that. They're not learning any of that. They're learning from you entirely through imitation. And people have a very hard time sometimes wrapping their mind about it and trusting the process that your child will be able to learn the flute just by imitating you, but they absolutely will. They absolutely will. They've learned everything up to now just by imitating you. That's how they learned how to use a fork. So they're going to be able to use a recorder too just by watching you. Now that puts a lot of pressure on us to be able to do it well, or at least to be able to muddle our way through, and you can do it. I get asked a lot about, oh gosh, the only time I can practice are when my kids are home. I totally get it. I'm a homeschooling mom too. My kids are always home. So they hear me practice, and yes, it's not fair because I'm a musician, and so my practice probably is at a different level than some others, and that's okay because they hear me make mistakes and they hear me go through that process of trying to reach a level of competence and mastery. They hear me get frustrated. They hear it sound bad. And that's good for them to hear that process because they're imitating it. They will imitate our practice habits. So yeah, it would be ideal for them not to hear it until you have mastered it. But for most of us, it's just not reality. And so it's okay. And they will imitate your practice habits, and then they will imitate you. And they can learn to play the flute just by listening and watching. So first grade, that's all you're doing. They will amaze you with what they can do. I'm confident. And remember that while it may seem just impossible for you, 6 a.m. in the bathroom, wow, yeah, that's some serious dedication and surprises me not at all. In the car alone, I just hope you're not driving. I'm assuming you're not. Although that'd be a real humdinger of a ticket, right? How would you explain that? But your child never sees that notation, and though it may seem to you the impossible task to sit down without music and learn how to play something on the flute, remember that it's us who are stuck. We're the ones that are so firmly rooted in that headspace, and we are the ones whose feet are so firmly rooted on this earth that we can't conceive of doing things differently sometimes. But the kids can. And if you sit down and tell them, hey, move your fingers like mama, that's exactly what they'll do. And they won't stop for a minute to think, hey, this would really be easier if I had some printed notation. I promise you that those words will not come out of your little one's mouth unless they've had some other musical experiences where they know that exists. So give it a whirl and see what happens. Grade 2, our big picture is the same thing. You're focusing on singing, not the instrument. You're focusing on that process instead of the product. Yes, we want them playing the instrument. We want them making progress. But again, there are 8 songs in each season. Pick a few that you're going to sing and pick a few that you're going to play. And just enjoy that. Let them build their toolbox, their bank of songs that we're going to use in grade 3. Let them do that. And not worry about the other things. Now in 2nd grade, big picture, we are starting to move more into a concrete realm, but it is on a spectrum. Remember that the 2nd grader, the child of 8, is really developmentally experiencing that duality of their own nature. That's why we have saint stories, and that's why we have the trickster, or not the trickster tales, the animal fables. I'm sorry, I'm in trickster land and that word came out of my mouth. Not tricksters, but fables. So we have the saints, who are human beings who hopefully made some better choices in life that we're holding up as models of people who we can emulate. And then the fables, a lot of those are animals or people that made some not so great choices and perhaps had a not so great end. Maybe they did. And so we're letting them explore that part of themselves through those stories. So we're doing the same thing in music in grade 2. That's our big picture. We're still working on singing. We're still working on developing our skills on an instrument. And we're starting to think about things on a spectrum. For example, if we're talking about dynamics, which are, among other things, volume, how loud is it? And we're talking about the spectrum of loud to soft. So you're going to explore some of those things in 2nd grade. We're going to explore slow and fast. We're going to explore high and low. We're going to explore smooth and jerky. Okay, songs that sound well, sound lovely, smoothed out, some that can be more detached, so smooth and jerky, but we're exploring those dichotomies and everything in between on that spectrum, and that's the big work of 2nd grade, because we're wanting to develop their ears more, but we are not still wanting to use big music words like quarter note or tempo or treble clef. We're really trying to avoid those concrete hard terms. We're just building their experiences. So that's our big picture for grade 2. And remember that then in grade 3, that is when we start to move firmly from whole to parts. And it's all mapped out for you in Music Unfolds about how and when to start bringing those musical elements so that your child is reading music. But if your child is in that grade 1, grade 2 category, your big picture is to just build their experiences with singing and with some playing. And that's all you're doing. You're not bringing those heady terms and elements to their consciousness. You are giving them those experiences so that later you can Name those things that they have already experienced, and it's all mapped out for you in the curriculum. So I'm getting a lot of, or not a lot, but several moms have asked about the progression of notes. And we're, one of the nice things about releasing this in season and then being able to release it finally all in one is we have the chance to go back and do some revisions. There's been a lot of confusion over Cold Wind Blow, which is the first song in the curriculum, and it's just a two-note song, and in one version it had it as A and B, and then the music is D and E. And so we're deciding what we will finally have that do, but really you can play it on any two notes. And the curriculum starts with those two notes, it builds up to three, and we just go on from there. And I've had some parents who are asking specific questions about why do we do two notes right from the beginning. And our thought on that is, or my thought on that, because the music stuff is that's my bailiwick. There's a very definite reason for that, several actually. And the first is because those are songs. Songs usually have more than one note. I know that there are one note songs, but songs that children generally sing will have two pitches. In fact, in Waldorfland, we talk about those two pitches a lot, and it's the fifth. They typically swing between notes that are a fifth apart, and I would add to that, just based on life experiences and working with children, the other interval they often sing as a third, notes that are three spaces apart. So they sing songs that have at least two notes in them, and the song literature that we wanted to include that was authentic song literature for children has more than one note. So that's why we started with 2 and 3 note songs. The other reason is that if they're going to be playing with you, I fully believe that children are capable of playing at least 2 notes from their very first time, and they get a lot of pleasure out of that, and are able to really enjoy that process, and they can do that. I know some parents will play a tune and then the child will play just one note along with them, matching their rhythm. Sometimes, and I would, based on just what I've read with Steiner, I would suggest that you teach them songs and ask them to play the melody along with you for several reasons. One, when they're just playing the rhythm, it isolates the rhythm, and then that is something that Steiner didn't want children to do. He didn't want us taking rhythm out of the context of a song, because again, he wants them to experience the whole song, not just a part of the song. The other reason is if they're just playing one note and you're playing a song along with them, with very few exceptions, they're going to encounter some dissonance. Now, of course, if the song you're playing just alternates between 3 notes or 2 notes, then that's not as likely. But we want them to experience sonance. We want them to experience things that go together and not dissonance. That's a Steiner thing. And then also, I think that most kids will enjoy that. Again, they just get some pleasure out of the accomplishment of it, and that's important for them to feel successful at something that they're excited about. So those were some choices that we made. Some parents have asked, well, won't it be just really too hard for them to learn 2, 3 notes in first grade? And my suggestion to you would be that I don't think so. Now, you are the one that sets the pace. So if your little one is really struggling with just those 2 notes, then then stay with 2-note songs for a while and very slowly build to those 3-note songs. And that is totally and completely okay. And you will be honoring your specific child's level of development. But I think most children that I've worked with, and my own children certainly, they can add on things a lot faster than we give them credit for sometimes. So I would suggest that you try it and move on with that and let them do it. So our big picture, again, remember that our big picture is singing. Sing, sing, sing. Sing in the car. Sing while you work around the house. You can sing out little songs for transition times. Sing around your table. I know the old rule, no singing at the table, but we never had that rule. We had a rule, no playing music with utensils at the table, but singing was allowed. So sing with your children. That's the big goal for these early years. And then the instrument is secondary. Yes, we want them to play that instrument, but the progress on that, you will be able to gauge whether you're going too fast or too slow on the instrument. We want them to have that will training, that will building of blowing that instrument and having that very physical connection with making a sound. But have that be part of what you are doing, but it's not the main focus. And then remember in grades 1 and 2 that reading notation is not part of the picture at all. Reading notation is not for the 7 or 8-year-old, and even the 9-year-old, you may find that your child needs a little extra time before beginning that. Various Waldorf schools started it at various times in the research that I did. Most are doing it in grade 3, later in grade 3, some wait till 4, but you set that tone and that pace. But when you see in our book that there's a song with 3 or 4 notes in it, remember that that song is not for them to read. They are not reading that song, and if it's very early on, they're just playing it anyway. And some of them, if you'll read the curriculum, it very specifically says, please do not ask your child to play this on the instrument at this time. So it's in there, and it's we try to make it as clear as we can, but the big picture is that we're singing, we are playing the instrument as a will-building secondary thing, and we're trying to grow musicians. So, please join me on the Music Unfolds page. I have a group page where you can participate in conversation, post questions there, and I turn those into videos. That's where we get our inspiration for what I'm going to talk about. You can also make sure that you're following the Waldorf Essentials page. That is where we make all of our announcements and where I'll do all of my videos, because we just have a bigger viewership there. So make sure that you're following that. Lots of great things happening over there that aren't music related at all. The Advent book is out today, and it's lovely, and you really need to check that out. Coming up in the next 5 weeks, I am going to be doing a weekly video here on the page. My next one is called Instrument Parade. We get lots of questions about what are the various instruments, and I have many of them. I'm going to talk about them and show them to you and play them for you, because I know that gift giving season is coming up, and a lot of people are considering instruments and would like some help selecting them. It can be really stressful, so join me for that. That is next week. And then the week after that, the Friday after American Thanksgiving Day, I will be doing an Advent or Solstice sing and play along. And I'm going to teach you one of my favorite songs from the winter curriculum that's out. It was inspired by Melissa's beautiful story about the spiral, walking the spiral. I actually had another song in its place, and then I read her story, and I said, "Oh, I've got another song." There's just a song welling up, so I'm excited about it. It's called Child of Light, and so you can join me for that, and I'll teach you how to sing it, and I'll teach you how to play it. I really, really will. And I am not posting the music on purpose. Of course, you can cheat and look in the curriculum and find it, but I want you to have that experience that we're asking you to give your children, which is to learn a song just by listening and just by looking. You can do it. I'm 100% confident. In fact, I told my husband, who's not particularly musical, yesterday. I was talking with him about the curriculum, and I told him that I firmly believe that if he was called upon to teach music, that given a month in this curriculum, he could totally teach our kids music. And of course, the boys were excited because they thought this meant that Daddy was going to teach music, and he was like, no, that would be your mom's going to do that. So anyway, come join me for a sing and play along. And then I'm going to be taking a week each and really diving deep into what we do in grades 1, grade 2, grade 3, and kind of giving you more of an overview of that curriculum. So in the new year, we're hoping to get some videos up of me actually working with children. They will not be live because I have a rule. We don't go live with children or animals. That's an old showbiz rule. So, and also because my children won't do it. So we'll be doing that in the new year, but that will be edited down to make sure that everybody feels good about their participation. And so you can look for that too. I'm available for consult if you would like to talk to me. The song and play along is the Friday after Thanksgiving. It's at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I don't know, am I on Central Time? That'll elicit a laugh from some viewers here. I think I'm in Texas, so whatever you are, 3 o'clock Texas time. So that is where I am, and that's when the sing and play along will be. So I'm looking, and I think I've answered all the questions as they have popped up, except for the one about we love carrots. No, I've never heard that, and I am Central Time. Melissa has confirmed it. And I hope I get to hear you sing that sometime, Denise. I would love to hear your carrots and peas song. But if there aren't any other questions, then I'm going to sign off. Thank you for tuning in today. I appreciate all of our viewers, and I appreciate those who have joined our group and follow our page and who are using our curriculum. Remember that I'm always here to answer questions as quickly as I can, and who knows, your question might be turned into a video. So thanks for tuning in today. Please keep singing. That's the most beautiful thing that we can add to this world. Thank you.